Welcome back to the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast, episode 86. Dylan, how was your 4th of July, buddy?
It was great. Short-lived, of course. Little holidays like that, you need about a week off to really enjoy them.
I know 4 days wasn't enough, and then going back to work after drinking a bunch of beer, eating a bunch of hot dogs, and blowing stuff up for a few days. I didn't want to go back to work today.
Right. Yeah, I was dragging.
Oh, for sure. But I've been thinking about asking our guest this week to join us for quite some time, and I finally had the liquid courage one night to send him a Facebook message to come on our show. But Grant Wilfong, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much, Brett. Dylan, I'm excited about this opportunity. If I'd have known you needed liquid courage, I could have served it up sooner, brother.
Well, I mean, like, I know you, but I don't know you at the same time, and
we Facebook buddies, right?
Yeah, we're Facebook buddies for sure.
And we're all deer hunting buddies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But you never know. Sometimes people that's stepping out of their comfort box, for sure on something like that.
I have friends and relatives that just would rather keep their deer hunting to themselves, and I'm kind of the other guy. I like to talk about it. I like to share my experiences and my knowledge, and I also love to learn from other people. I mean, there's just so much out there. One person can only cover so much ground, right? So if you share your experiences and your wins and your losses, I think that you can learn so much more, and it's also a lot more fun just to communicate. I don't want to hide my experiences in deer hunting. I think they're some of the best times of my life, and I want to share them with people. If that has some effect on whether I killed another big one because I might have revealed too much information, that doesn't worry me. I feel like I'm very confident in what I do, and I feel like I could also teach a lot of that to other people if I were allowed to. Unfortunately, most people don't listen.
Well, that's kind of the point of our show, honestly. Reaching out to people who I feel like could give real world experience, whether it's something that didn't pan out for you or something that did pan out for you. It's nice to get, especially you being as local as you are. I'm not going to dig and ask you where you're at and all that kind of stuff. I'm just, just picking your brain on the whitetail world, and it's a lot of fun each week to do this.
Sure. Feel free. You're not gonna offend me on anything. You can fire away at me. So I'm willing to share and thoroughly enjoy this. So.
Awesome, buddy. Well, for somebody that doesn't know Grant Wilfong, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm an Indiana boy. I've been in central Indiana here I'm 61 years old. I was born and raised in Rush County and Indiana, over close to Carthage, Indiana, actually. And I've lived all but 3 or 4 or 5, about 5 years of my life right here in central Indiana. I did live in Illinois for about 4 or 5 years, I guess 5 years. And I did get to do some hunting over there. I was quite a bit younger. I was in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. So, but I was still wild about whitetails even when I was a kid. It started when I was, I suppose it started when I was a teenager. I had a friend of mine that we played a little ball together with, and he also helped us on the horse farm. I was raised on a horse farm right over on 6 Mile Creek south of Charlottesville, and that farm was a great place to be raised. We had a couple little ponds on that farm and a couple creeks going through it and all kinds of wildlife, and that's kind of the world I grew up in. We did some trapping, we did some fishing, and this friend of mine, Lindsey Steinwalks, actually, he doesn't do much hunting or fishing much anymore, but he was the guy that kind of got me involved in it. His dad was a big outdoorsman, extremely good fisherman, extremely good hunter. He was just one of those guys that kind of had the mystique. When I was young, I was like, I want to be like Bill Steinwalks. I want to be able to go into that pond and yank out the biggest bass, and I want to go on that farm and be able to pull out the best buck. it took a long time to learn how to do it for me. I was kind of self-taught. I didn't really pick up a lot from other people because I really didn't hang out with experienced hunters. So it was kind of something that I learned on my own. But we'd go down to southern Indiana, actually Brown County. I can still see it. We were on Salt Creek Road, just outside of Nalhone, in Brown County, Indiana, and we'd hunt up in the hills there. And we were just kids, like I said, teenagers. There's 4 or 5 of us. We never did kill a deer down there, I don't think. But old Bill Steinwalk's drug a big buck out every time opening day, and I was like, man, there's got, I got to figure this out.
Right. Dylan's coming to Indiana opening weekend of firearms this year. He was grateful enough to let me come down and take a turkey with him, and I told him, I said, I'm getting you on a buck. Explain to him, because I cannot do it enough, what is opening weekend of, even me as a bow hunter, what is opening weekend of firearm seasons like here? It's like a holiday here.
Well, I tell you, I hate to admit this, but opening weekend of firearm season, like you said, opening morning, it's like it kind of almost pulled me away from. It did pull me away from serious bow hunting in Indiana, because I didn't want to miss opening day of gun season, because it's like you said, it's like Christmas. I mean, if you're a deer hunter in Indiana, it's like Christmas. Now, if you're a bow hunter in Indiana,
you hate it.
There's a lot of it's heartbreaking, because they know what's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
Those bow hunters know that deer that they've been trying to suck in tight and get an opportunity at them, there's a good chance that deer's going down. But and then so I bow hunt, and I it's funny, I guess I'm like everybody. I started out shooting what I could find and hunting what I could find, and we killed some spikes and forkies and 6-pointers, and I remember getting my first 6-pointer with a bow. I was leaning against a walnut tree. I could take you to that tree today, and I was probably 21 years old when it happened. And I had a buddy of mine with me, and we were in Illinois, and I sent him across the river, and he heard my arrow. He heard my bow shoot the arrow. And he come back across. He said, "I knew that was you. I knew." Anyway, it's the stuff that makes hunting so special. Just those memories, and you can talk about it with those people. But yeah, back to the opening day. So of gun season. So what I did for a long time, Brett, was I was bow hunting without the intention of really killing anything, because we kind of switched down to one buck, and it didn't seem to matter what I saw. It was never big enough. I can tell you 20 years ago, I had 150-inch bucks walking under me, and I would count one after. I'm seeing these big deer, nice deer, even up into the 160s, and I'm just letting them walk, thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to kill a giant if I kill the first, I'm seeing the first nice buck of the year under my, and then I'm not going to get to hunt with my gun. So anyway, that's one of those things that it kind of captured me and pulled me away from serious bow hunting for many years. Bow hunting was something to do to get out in the woods and kind of maybe see what was going on late. I when I was younger, I bow hunted like opening day. I was like out there. I'm hardcore. I'm hunting every day. I'm gonna wear this deer out. I'm gonna kill this deer. I'm gonna find this deer. I didn't have trail cameras. I did a little bit of scouting. I'd see one every now and then across the road, or I'd see one out in the field, and then I typically hunted the land that we farmed, or we had our horse operation on in Illinois or Indiana, either one. But anyway, it's kind of weird. So literally, I've never harvested a really good deer with a bow. I've harvested many good whitetail with a gun in several different states. Ohio, Illinois, Kansas, of course, Indiana. I feel like one of my biggest sweet spots is I can walk into a new place and dial in, and like within an hour I'm dialed in. It's like I can dial in quickly. I've had a lot of people say, well, you got this and you got that, and there's no wonder you're killing those big deer. And I'm like, I'll gladly trade you if you got a place that you think you want to trade. Just let me know. I'll trade you, because I can tell you right now. My brother-in-law is a pretty good deer hunter, and when he was younger, he told me, well, if I could hunt where I said, I'll tell you what, right now, I'll trade you in a heartbeat. Let's just do it. I've never had anybody trade me yet. Okay. But my point of that is that's one of my strong suits. And so anyway, so I was doing this archery hunting, this bow hunting, where I really wasn't trying to kill a deer. I was really, unless an absolute giant. I had 3 or 4, it's probably been 7 or 8 years now. I had a 180-inch buck 7 yards from me with my bow in my hand, minutes before shooting light was up, and I turned. I saw him coming. I looked down at him. I pulled my bow back. I aimed, and I couldn't see the deer. And he was literally 7 yards away. I mean, I could have jumped on him and rode him out of the woods, It was one of those things. But
I've been there before.
That was one of those deer I was definitely going to pull the trigger on as a bow hunter, and when I really wasn't normally doing that. And a friend of mine ended up hunting that deer, killing that deer opening weekend with a gun. So, which was, not surprising. It happens, but anyway.
It does. What about, talk a little bit about the terrain that you're hunting here in Indiana. We'll get to some other states here in a little bit, but
sure.
Talk about, some of these farms that you're hunting. Kind of put it on me. How are you dialing it in the first hour? What exactly are you looking at? What are you looking for?
I think one of the biggest assets that we have is just aerial photos. And today, aerial photos are kind of obsolete because we've got Google Earth. We can just hit the maps on our phone and dial in. And I'm all about pinch points. I'm all about, here's what I learned. Deer are just like people. They will take the easy route, okay? They will take the easy route unless they're under pressure, okay? Now, number one, that's like, to me, that's don't pressure them.
Yeah.
So I used to hunt, every day. The more when I realized the less I hunt, the smarter I hunt, the better I hunt. When I started using that mentality, it's funny how much more productive I became, because hey, if somebody's chasing you and you know it, you're going to be hard to catch.
Absolutely.
So deer are not really any different. I've found one of the things, of course, trail cameras are just, they do amazing things now. They
make that hard to not go in there.
Yeah, they do. But they also teach you a lot of things. They teach you that deer do things the lazy way. I mean, you'll be amazed if you find a place where there's a driveway in an old barn lot, or a fence is down someplace. These deer will use that 10 times over the place anywhere near it. And if you put a camera on that spot, you will load up quickly on knowledge, because they are just like people. They take the easy route. So so to get back to the terrain though, we've got hills, we've got cornfields, we've got fence rows, soybeans fields, we got rivers, creeks, and all these different terrains have the same thing. They all have little pinch points, and you just have to dial in on understanding, you know, why the deer is where it is instead of over here, you know. And I think that's something that I hunted a new piece of property last year. Literally, I hadn't hunted it for 30 years, and I had not hunted this part of this property ever. That I dialed in on, and I went in there and I hunted there the first evening, and I thought I knew where I wanted to be, and there were two spots right along a waterway that had significant pinch points, and I felt like those two spots, you watch the wind, you catch the wind right. If you can get into that wind direction in the right way, and pick your spot, and either one of them would be lethal. Well, it turned out that worked out really good. I ended up harvesting. This buck right here is a 6.5-year-old. I'd watched him for 3 years on camera, but I hadn't hunted that property in over 30 years. So I watched probably 10 different bucks, and I was at a pinch point where there were fences, there were changes in one. There were 3 different types of fields there. There were 3 different fences. There was a waterway as well. There was just everything pointed to this is where I needed to be. And here I am right there. I put a stand up, and I told a buddy of mine, I said, I'm gonna kill this deer right there. And I've never seen the deer ever in person. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, I saw him. I saw him the day before I ended up harvesting, and out of that stand. And then the next day I got right back in there, and I never once got winded by a single deer in that stand in 3 or 4 days of hunting. But and the main reason is the second the wind changed, I'm out of there. I'm gone. I'm taking off. I will get out of there. I will not sit there and spoil a spot. That's just something I won't do. You know, I mean, I had a buddy tell me last year, you know what? I don't think wind really matters. And I'm like,
I don't know about all that.
But anyway, yeah, that worked out for this deer. Like I said, he's a 6.5-year-old. I killed him with so when I get with my Matthews, I've got an old Matthews that I got this bow probably 20 years ago. It's an old switchback. A buddy of mine was hunting with it, and he was ready to get a new one. And I said, well, yeah, I'll buy that off of you. So I bought that off of him, and I hunted with it, and I never shot the bow at a deer. And so we get into archery season here, and I'm getting dialed in with my crossbow, right? Mm-hmm. I hurt my back. I couldn't pull my crossbow back. I hadn't hunted with my compound in several years because I decided the compound or the crossbow was the way to go for me. So anyway, when I hurt my back, I thought, man, I got to do something because I've got a couple bucks I really want to try to. I made a decision. I wanted to harvest something quality with the bow for sure. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I got that Matthews out, and I pulled it back, and it didn't hurt my back. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I figured the crossbow would be worse than but it wasn't. So so I started shooting the compound, and I didn't overshoot it. I decided I'm going to keep my range short. I know I can get close to these deer. I do it all the time, and I'm going to and make sure the shot counts. So I hunted. I think it was my second or third hunt here in Indiana, and I harvested my first Pope and Young with the bow, of course, Pope and Young. But that was this deer right here, and he's right at 150. That's gross, and that's not official. That's me, but I'm telling you, he's right on 150, and he's very symmetrical.
Mm-hmm. I can usually be within a couple inches myself with a soft.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not a licensed measure, but I can get you close. I can get you close looking at it, and I thought that's where he was in the low 50s, but and he's right there. But anyway, he was my first Pope and Young, and then I went to Illinois the week later, and this is my second Pope and Young with that old Matthews, and both of them were 10 yards or less, and I kind of had some fun with them. I kind of use these. I've used a lot of different grunt calls. How about you guys? Have you tried grunt calls? Mm-hmm. And they kind of feel like sometimes you're like, man, I'm not sure about this. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, So I've
had the same grunt tube since like 97.
Yeah, I started using my mouth. I mean, heck, if Waddell can do it, I can do it, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you the number of deer I've called in with it. The merk, just give it a little grunt. And I mean, both of these deer. This deer was going dead away from me, and he acted like he didn't hear me. And I did it one more time, and I waited 5 minutes. That sucker walked right to me. He tried to climb the tree, I mean, it's crazy. And I did the same thing with this one. And this is 6.5-year-old deer. This ended up being a 4.5. I was a little disappointed. I thought he was a little older, but anyway, still a nice deer. And it was my goal was to put a Pope and Young in the book. But anyway, this deer was he was a little tougher to get in, but he couldn't take it. He finally turned. He come right to me. He knew where he was trying to get. I watched the doe and another buck, and he knew. But once I grunted, he couldn't take it. He could not take it. He turned, came right back to me.
I'm not gonna lie. Within the probably up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I was absolutely scared to death to make a noise in the whitetail woods. Grunts, rattling, snort, wheeze, any of it. The last 2 bucks that I've killed, I killed them because I snort wheezed at them and stopped them on an absolute dime. And they turned, but it was that time of the year. It was in that window. I wouldn't do it mid-October or even late November.
Right.
But that sweet little window past Halloween into that second week of November, I couldn't believe it. Just like he stopped. I mean, just like, what's going on? And then just come in rushing me almost.
Right. Timing is absolutely important there, and you're exactly right. That window right there, you go there a few days before Halloween, maybe the week before even, and then you go through mid-November around here, even a little bit later sometimes. How about you down there, Dylan? What's you're a Tennessee man, right?
Yeah. Our sweet time is right around, I would say, the first week in November until about the 17th is when they're really fired up and chasing.
That sounds right. That sounds exactly like it is up here. I mean, we could go back maybe a little before Halloween, but that sounds about right. I mean, my birthday's November 8th, and I think it was that's why
yeah,
I was born at the right time.
Absolutely,
full rut right out of the gate. So,
that's kind of when we get our first real good cold front too. Typically is when it's coming together. And last year was the first year I've really heard deer be vocal. I've seen it obviously on YouTube and stuff like that, but last year I had you have to almost be listening for it because it'll slip right by you without you realizing. And I heard a doe running, and then I heard just grunting like crazy, and I adrenaline dump. I got all excited, and it was a button buck. Yeah. Button buck was dogging this doe, and there I thought it was going to be a 150, 160, and it was awesome. But like what you said with the pinch points and the path of least resistance, Brett will tell you I'm a big time believer in hard work makes lazy deer make it easier on you. And I try to do all my food plots and stuff like that to where even it's on like a bowl in a field, because I see them in the bowls more than I do up on the the tops, and I catch them. I catch traveling like that. I catch my turkey doing this, following right in suit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I find myself moving around my farm to hunt. But at the end of the day, my mind before I climb that tree is always back to my one pinch point that we've killed almost all the deer from on this farm. So I believe highly in those pinch points and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's magical things happen there. I remember a few years, early 2000s. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but me and a couple buddies went out to Kansas, and we were muzzleloading in mid-September.
That's awesome.
And first time we'd been out there, and we get out there and we're hunting this. I don't know. It was a public ground, and it had a sanctuary in it, and it had these ranger roads through it, and they'd travel the roads and check things out, and it had Milo, and it was a neat place. It was a habitat built place for hunting, and so we excuse me. Anyway, the first day we kind of did a little bit of scouting, and I dialed in on one pretty quickly. I found out that this sanctuary had a little road right next to it, and the road was still legal hunting, and right on the other side of the road was Milo. And now this road isn't like a road; it's a grassy path, more like for the rangers to drive up and down, in which they didn't use it often, but it was also an easy, quiet access point for me, which is wonderful. That's something else that I will take my zero turn mower out and make a path to make things quieter. I hold my zero turn to Illinois, if that tells you anything. I mean, I'm a firm believer. I mean, it's this thing's like a bulldozer. It's a beast. So an X mark, and it's been abused, but it sure has earned its keep. Just in the deer woods for me, I can get in and out quietly. I can also get in and out almost scent free, which that's hard to do, man. If you can have those two things on your side right there, I mean, you're way ahead of the rest. If the rest of the guys are walking through the weeds and cracking brush and rubbing their, everything on these weeds and plants and whatnot, you're way ahead of them. So that's something I do, and that's something that out there we did, and that I was hunting on this path near this sanctuary. Well, anyway, I'm walking down this quiet path, and I look up, and I see some aggressive rubs, and I mean some good trees and breaking rubs. When you see that, when you start seeing good ones breaking off, good size trees and limbs and stuff, you're like, that's an aggressive, mature deer usually. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't go another 30 yards, and I saw this huge rack just whew, and I'm like, oh my, okay. And I just backed up, because I was not in a position where I was going to gain anything for going for further. So I backed out of there. And the next morning, I told the guys, I said, hey, just drop me off up there by that barn. And next to that little trail there that goes back towards the sanctuary. And I got out of the truck, and I said, hey, give me a couple rubber gloves. And they went, oh shit, get out of here, you're crazy. Well, about an hour and a half later, I had that big boy down, and he's I think he's 14 points, and he's got double drop tines, and he's and he's a short-haired Kansas, and
fresh, a public land buck.
Public land buck.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was I can still see the ranger, and he was at like 7 yards. This deer was I could have literally. I always say this, I could have jumped on him, but he was like right under me. But he probably went 5 yards and dropped on that path, and the ranger comes back there and checks him out, and he goes, "Man, I've never seen this deer before." It was pretty cool. So that was an experience where the same tactics apply, though. I mean, we had everything we needed right there. It was kind of in the corner of this Milo field, and we had an easy walking path. A travel pattern for him was easy. It was quiet, and it was easy and quiet for me to get in and out. I wasn't making noise, and I wasn't creating a scent problem. And I just climbed up in a big willow tree that how willows just kind of, their limbs, they don't go straight up. So this was a big willow on the edge of this swampy old sanctuary. Anyway, I got up in that tree and no stand or anything, which is how I used to hunt all the time. I was either hunting on the ground or I was hunting in a tree, and I was just climbing. But I got past that when I started getting a little older. I'm a tree stand guy now, so I like a good lock on. Occasionally I'll use the ladder stands, but I like lock-ons, and I've hunted quite a bit out of blinds off and on. They're awful nice when it's cold out,
Talking about walking in quiet like that and scent control and all that stuff made me think of a particular property that I hunt, which is kind of my honey hole the last couple of years, and where I'm taking Dylan opening day gun. And sure. Everybody always says, "Why don't you hunt the back of this property?" Well, the back of this property is all bedding. I mean, every bit of it's bedding. And I walk a truck path or a golf cart path in this grass field down to where it turns to go to that bedding. And a lot of times, up to about November, that I don't go any further than this particular tree. That's as far as I go. And it's not even that far of a walk. I may, 1,000 yards maybe, if that. And everybody says, "Why don't you push it? Push it." For one, I'm walking in where the farmer brings the tractor in almost daily. I'm quiet walking through the grass. Even when it's wet, I'm not really making that much noise. That hits home, because a lot of people, especially like public land, you did it on public land. Somebody didn't even think about that on public land. Who knows how old that buck probably was, to walk in like that.
And I don't call myself a public land hunter. I typically don't hunt public land, but I can tell you, I would do really well on public land, because, like I said, I think you just kind of gotta. I'm kind of analytical. I kind of tend to think things over, maybe overthink them a little bit. But I think that's where you come up with, where's this deer going to go? Why is this deer? Why was he where I saw him? Why, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The pieces of that puzzle. And I think that I've got some buddies that they hunt harder, and I think hunting harder, like sometimes it's hunting harder. Just like you said, maybe Dylan, do the work harder and then leave them alone and let the work do the work,
Mm-hmm.
And that's just my philosophy. Hey, listen, I understand it's hard to stay out of the woods. If you love the deer hunt, if you love sitting out there and hearing all the wonderful wildlife noises and the peace, and it's such a wonderful place to be. I can totally understand. But if your goal is to kill the mature deer in that woods, you can't make very many mistakes. And when I was a little younger, I was connecting with these deer, and I said, I can't get them in the truck. I'm like, I'm all over them. I know, I couldn't get them in the truck. Finally, one day, over a period of time, I get so excited. I just
Right.
couldn't control my emotions, and I was taking bad shots and not holding down, just the things that you have to do, follow through. Finally, one day, me and Jesus had a meeting on that, and we come to terms with it. And from that point forward, it's kind of amazing. From that point forward, I've solved the problem just by you got to do this. If you don't do this, it's not going to work. You know, you have to totally focus. And this deer is the result of it. I literally I was in the snow, and I'd seen the deer the day before, and I'd found his sheds. I killed this deer in 91. He's 164 and change, I think. And he was officially scored, I believe, by Tony Wright. But anyway, that deer, he's the deer that finally, he's the year that I finally made the decision that I have to do better, you know, if I'm going to close the deal. So I was in the snow. I was up in a multi-floor rose bush, and I had my knees up, and I had everything. You know, I didn't have a shooting stick. But I had a base and a solid shooting rec with my knees and whatnot, and I remember completely focusing and pulling the trigger, and I literally saw, you know, the results instantly, and he was the first big deer that I've ever really taken and gotten a truck.
I wish I could have heard that advice last year about the 1st of November.
Yeah.
Before I rushed that shot on the big one in Hancock County. I wish I was on him, 2 or 3 days prior to that. Saw him again. I was on him, like you said. I'm all over him.
Yeah.
And then I get that one little sliver opportunity. Not that I haven't killed decent bucks before, but it would have definitely been my absolute biggest with a bow for sure. And I just rushed the shot just a little bit when I should have just sat back and let it all come to me a little bit.
Yeah. Man, I tell you, I'm an emotional person. I'm a very excitable person. I'm a jumpy person. But I've learned to dial in, and you just have to dial in. You just have to really, you have to treat it like business, you know?
Yeah, it's discipline, really. And it starts from, you know, your off season. If you're disciplined on putting in the work and chasing them, scouting, then, you know, roll that over. Be disciplined in waking up early and getting out there. Be disciplined. And I've worked on myself, just sitting still, taking my time, like Brett said, because, you know, you've got your time invested up until that point, and it comes down to a split-second decision. So why not just take your time on that split second?
You need to be able to work efficiently when that opportunity arises. You cannot make mistakes. If you make mistakes, it won't happen.
But now when that big buck comes out, it's all out the window because, you know, you get so tore up. So it's one of those catch-22s. You know, in my mind, I'm ready.
Dylan, I still get tore up, and that's why I probably still hunt, because I still get tore up. I've asked myself, how many more years am I going to hunt? And I can't answer that question, I guess, until I can't walk, because I just love it so much. I've never been a go all over the world type of hunter, but I love hunting these whitetails, and I'd go about anywhere. But I get a lot of enjoyment just right here in the Midwest, and it's a lot of fun, and so much. So the deer, this deer, when I harvested this deer, I entered him in the Indiana Deer Hunters Association Big Buck Contest, and I believe he was number one in the state in that state contest that year, back in 91. And the next year, I harvested a deer about 2 inches smaller than him, and I entered him in that same contest. And I think he was number one or number two. I think he might have been number two. I've got some pictures of it somewhere, but
that's pretty cool, though.
The head of the DNR walked up to me and he goes, "You think you're slick, don't you?"
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir, I do.
I thought to myself, wow, that's, but it's, listen, that's their job. Their job is to keep an eye on things and try to make sure everybody's doing it right. And I'm thankful that they're out there putting in the time and energy to protect our natural resources and I don't blame him for doing that. It felt a little funny with me behind the 8 ball there, but I did it right, and I was it was a great time and a great start for me to actually turn the page into a bona fide trophy hunter. When I took the second one in a row after I'd kind of made my mind up, I have to do things better and right. I can't make these little mistakes and close the deal, And that was when it all happened for me. And so I've been pretty so here I am. I'm 61. So that was 91. So here we are. What we got? 24 years, and then add another 9 to it. So 33 or 4 years.
I say you killed him in 91. I was born in 89. Not to make you feel any older, but I'm 35, so it's been 30 some years.
Right. Yeah, I get it, man. It's I'm blessed. I am so blessed to have had that much enjoyment and those many years of enjoyment in the woods. My dad was when we were kids. I got a brother and a sister, and my brother and I, dad would take us quail hunting and rabbit hunting. He bought us. Used to be a little hardware store in Carthage named Fitch's Hardware, and he bought us single shot shotguns, and he had an Ithaca Model 37 pump gun, modified choke, and 16 gauge. And we had these little 20 gauge single shots, and he'd take us out hunting, and we'd hunt the rabbits, and we could never. We had a few quail back then. There's not near as many now, but he'd get a few quail, and we'd shoot the rabbits, and every now and then we'd get lucky and get one, and that's kind of where it all. Just the hunting gene, and he was a trapper when he was a kid too, but he didn't grow on up and hunt as an adult. That kind of stopped hunting. I'd say when we were probably 10 years old, he was done hunting. I don't recall him ever hunting after that. He just kind of focused on his work, and he got us boys started. And my brother didn't hunt much after that, and I kept doing it, and I love it. Dad used to give me hell about it. He said, "You got work to do. You don't have time to hunt." Well, I kind of felt like, you kind of have a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I worked with my dad and my brother, and I'd always, take time to deer hunt. Dad didn't think too much of that. So I kind of split out on my own, and then I started buying farms and little pieces of land, trying to put together the puzzle so I could, have my own. And that's kind of, I think I'm in real estate right now pretty heavily. I enjoy investing and working with real estate, and with that, deer hunting I think was a big part of that for me, because it was kind of my reason to have a piece of the rock, Mm-hmm. And once I started buying the land and building that one piece of property is great, but 2 pieces of property and 3 pieces of property. I don't care whether you're renting, leasing, or just getting permission, whatever it is, or buying. But you know how it is. You can have a great piece of property and the wind not be right several days in a row on that property if things just aren't lining up right. Especially if you're trying to hit a specific pinch points on those farms. So to me, I like to have 3 or 4 properties. I know that might be impossible for some people, but I also believe I've seen people. I worked hard to buy these properties, and I've seen people that didn't have 2 pennies to get together, but whether they were willing to go out there and offer their services to a landowner or a farmer. Hey, if you tell a farmer that, hey, your fence is down, I want to fix that for you. Or, hey, you've got some trees down back there, I'll cut those up for you. You need some firewood, Mr. Farmer? Hey. Oh, you mean it's got some value? Right. I think that's the problem. I get people that call me the last minute. They want, hey, you got a place I can hunt? You know any place I can hunt? Like you said, Dylan, put the work in. Mm-hmm. Put the work. you gotta think about it ahead of time. You gotta get your game plan together. You gotta be willing to give a little to get a little. I don't care what it is in life, and that goes for hunting ground too. Fishing's the same way. You just got to get out there and offer up your services, build relationships with people, and you'll be surprised what you can build out of that. It can turn into a lot more than a place to hunt.
Oh, you just hit home for Dylan. You just named Dylan to a T because he just does everything you just talked about.
Yeah,
I do. I network it. When I go and I lease a farm, I want that farmer to, when I leave, to feel like, wow, we're lucky he stopped by one day.
You're exactly right.
That's the way I do it. Yeah.
You're giving me goosebumps, brother. You know how many people have ever offered to do that with me? Very few. I've got some places. That being said, I'm not really interested in I'm kind of greedy, I guess. I like to keep my places, but I am willing and able to help people if they'll listen. Just like you just said, Dylan, you push all the right buttons, man. If you push all those buttons, people are going to do about whatever you want them to do. That's how life works, Yep. It's just, you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the effort. So, there's a lot of people out there looking for a place to land a deer hunt. But the fact of the matter is, it has value. If it has value to you as a hunter, then get out there and offer up your services. You don't have to have money. Matter of fact, money really isn't an important thing in it. What matters is you can build, like you said, a very close relationship with that man or woman or family, and you can take care of things that they don't want to do. And they will be thankful, and they will take care of you. That just happens all the time. All the time. There's all kinds of opportunities like that, whether people want to believe it or not. So, that's
100%. If my goal is to get them to brag on me, like, hey, I've got this guy who, he'll come and he checks in with me. He calls, holidays, or, he come and killed some coyotes. Then I'll get phone calls from other people because they're like, hey, would you be interested? Well, yeah, I would actually. I would love to.
Yeah.
And I've, read firsthand, I've got people that I've been talking to for years, but I got that relationship, but I'm still building that relationship, and it takes a little bit of time sometimes.
It does. Hey, trust shouldn't be given out immediately, and neither should reward. And you know that, and you know what you're doing. You're talking about business, Dylan. That is business. You are doing. That's what you're doing. These people are trusting you and believing in you and bragging on you, and they're excited to have you as part of their life and their operations. So that's what you got to do.
Absolutely. And don't pester, and just keep checking in with them on a personal level. When they say no, 99% of the time, the person they told no, they're not coming back to talk to them again. I'll swing by if I see them out,
I've heard that. You are 100% right, Dylan. You are exactly right. I've seen it. I've heard it. And you know what? That's what salesmen do. They keep coming back, and they build a relationship with you. I've seen people buy farms that weren't for sale that way, houses that weren't for sale that way, trucks, cars, tractors that weren't for sale the same way. Be persistent, be kind, and try to build a relationship. And next thing you know, the day they decide to sell that or let somebody hunt it or rent it or whatever the situation is, they're going to come to you. They're going to say, hey, Dylan, you reached out to me. I thought of you first, And
100%.
So they're not all going to be scores. Not every door you knock on is going to be a yes. Most of them are going to be no's, but you got to keep putting the work in and build those relationships. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we can teach the hunters of today is there's a lot of people out there sour because there's no place to hunt. Well, there's still the same amount of acres to hunt as there always was. You just have to get out there and build relationships with people and be willing to spend a little time and energy and maybe a few nickels of your own to show that it means something to you. You don't have to go out and spend large amounts of time or money. You just have to show some interest and that you care and that you are responsible. And if you say you're going to be there, you show up. the basic things that you know what, I hired a guy today to cut some trees down for me on a property I just bought, and it's amazing how many people you call to hire for services that won't answer the phone and won't call you back, or wait and wait, and then they may text you or whatever. This guy called me back, and he said, "Hey, I can be there in an hour." I'm like, "Whoa, really? I'll be there." So he shows up, and then he shoots me a price, and the price is, it's a good enough price. And I said, "Hey, come around the back here. I got some more trees here. Let's talk about these." Next thing you know, the job's twice as big as it was, because he showed me that, and he started building relationships. Hey, listen, if there's anything else you need around here, I'm licensed and bonded, and I can do this stuff, and I can help you when I'm not busy cutting trees down for other people. Let me know. I can help you with other projects. Well, I hadn't known the guy 30 minutes. I'm like, I love this guy. This is good stuff, just like you're talking about right there. So
customer service goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, that was a good day for me, and I appreciate people like that. I can tell you this much: if you call me, I'm answering your call, and I don't care if your name's Dylan Albright or Brett Morris or who you are. I'm answering the phone. I'm answering the phone. I'm going to respond to you, and I think that's what, if you get there, and those landowners, get in their head just a little bit, and try to be a helpful part of their life. They're probably gonna at some point at least let you go out and knock off the groundhogs that are
Right.
under their fence. Or, hey, I can trap those groundhogs. I just love doing this stuff. Or, hey, how about coyotes? Next thing you know, you're there. So, good stuff.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
So
What do you got going on this year? You got any Western trips or anything? Any kind of fun stuff going on, you guys?
Yeah, I'll be back in Missouri. Missouri's got me hook, line, and sinkered. Be going back over there a couple times probably.
Awesome.
Going down to Dillon's in Tennessee for the velvet hunt. As far as I know right now, that's all I have planned deer hunting wise. That could change if I cash out early here in Indiana, which has happened to me the last. I haven't shot a deer with a gun since 2017.
Yeah.
And I've been on that streak. I like getting it done with the bow, but like you said, it's hard because when that opening day rolls around, it's tough not to have that gun in my hand and go chasing it, just having that feeling of opening day. But as far as right now, that's all I got playing.
Yeah, I you know what, I gotta say, after harvesting those two with the bow last year, it's a whole different.
Absolutely.
I feel like I missed out on something. I feel like that it really felt good.
Oh, absolutely.
It really felt good. We talk about opening day of gun season, but I'm telling you right now, that's an accomplishment when you're sitting there with a somewhat primitive weapon in your hand, and you can get them in close and close the deal. That's very rewarding to me. So yeah, that's good.
There's something different about shooting one with a gun at 100 yards and then shooting one with a bow at 10, 15, 20 yards. But the reason you shot it at 10 or 15 yards is because you put yourself in that position to make that shot. You played chess with the buck for a few weeks. I have a goal that I'm putting on myself this year for a particular property. I'm not even going to go in there, and at least the 20th to the 25th of October, I don't even want to set foot in this place because
I do it every year. I love that.
Yeah, and that's why the Dylan's Velvet Hunt or me going to Missouri, because I like going to Missouri in September.
Yeah.
I get that kind of that early season fix out of the way. That way I'm not going in October 1st and going hunting one of my best stands, because that doesn't make any sense, because I'm not going to see what I'm after. You know what I mean?
9 times out of 10, you're 100% right. You see that. It's fun to get out there. I like, first of all, before I get real serious hunting, I'll go hunt a stand that I'm not. It's not a serious stand. get your shit together stand, you know.
Yeah, work out the kinks.
A practice run type stand, and then you know, the next time too after that, I'm ready to roll. I got everything dialed in, and because you definitely don't want to be unprepared when you get in your best spot and you know that things are right. You need to be ready to rock, because it can happen in a matter of seconds.
Absolutely.
So, especially if you've prepped it like you're saying, you've stayed out of it, you've done all your groundwork prior to season, and you've given them room to get comfortable in their home there, and then stay there, and nobody's, you know, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You can have properties around you. I mean, you can have properties around you. You know, the area that we live in here. There's a lot of 5 acre tracts.
Oh,
there's
absolutely.
a lot of 2 acre tracts. There's a lot of dang deer hunters. Every one of those 3 to 5 acre tracts got a hunter or two on it.
Absolutely.
Every one of them. I mean, there's people pointing at them, looking at them the whole time. If you can just give them a place to get comfortable and unbothered, they'll stay there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They will stay there. That is a big deal. They need a place to call home where they feel safe, just like we do. So that's one of the big things for me. Is another thing. You know, we talk about pinch points. We talked about your food plots and that. But at the end of the day, if they're not comfortable there, I don't care how much food you got, you're not going to see them in the daylight hours. They're going to be somewhere else, or they're going to be bedded up somewhere, stuck in a briar patch until you're long gone, you know?
Yeah, and that's what a crazy thing is, too, bringing somebody like Dylan in from the South. If I showed him some of the places that I've killed my biggest deer, he'd be like, "What? Why were you even out there?" It's because it's so wide open. These fence rows, when you have such big ag fields and you got these fence rows are major travel corridors in between these patch woods that we have here. Those places can be great places to sit early season and see what's going on, where they're traveling, and then all of a sudden everything just goes out the window because they cut corn or they cut beans or whatever, and then you start all over and you got to do it all over again, and that's just the fun way. The fun I get out of hunting East Central Indiana like we do.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those fence rows. It's funny how sometimes after season you'll take the 4-wheeler out and ride the fence rows, and you'll go, "Holy cow!"
bad.
Holy cow, man! There's a rub line here from, you know, looks like Goliath's been living here, you know. And so you're exactly right. Those fence rows are. I think I heard a story about a guy recently that he doesn't have big. He doesn't even try to hunt big tracts. What he tries to do is he drives these areas and finds places with a little drainage ditch or a big fence row or whatever. And he asked permission to just hunt those specific areas. This guy is slaying monsters, hunting little drainage ditches, just hunting the things that nobody else is hunting. And to your point there, they love, those are travel corridors, and they're also safe spots.
Yeah, they're not pressured.
Yeah, they're not pressured. If they're pressured in the woods, you know where they're going? Those spots right there.
Mm-hmm.
Or a dip or a hole somewhere out in the middle of, you know, open ground. So there's another thing I noticed. Have you guys noticed, like, there's been 2 or 3 mega giant bucks killed in the last few years, without naming any names?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That have been killed with climbers. With these guys are carrying climbers and I think you guys probably use the what do you call them? Saddles and stuff.
I do, yeah.
But that's the same basic idea, is go somewhere you've never been and go into an area and find this, you know, this knob where the acorns are, and that's kind of what Dustin Huff did on that deer. He said, "I've hunted that farm my whole life, but I've never hunted that ridge back there, and I decided I was going back there with my climber that day." He said he saw 2 other deer that day, and then it happened. And I'm like, sure. And that's why that giant was there, you know,
because nobody ever hunted it.
Safe, you know? And so you think about that stuff. That's not really a coincidence, you know? You're not going to have the world's or the biggest deer in the world around every corner, but you can find the biggest deer in the woods in the safest place most of the time. You just got to figure out where that safest place is, you know, whether it's one of those fence rows or a drainage ditch or a knob that nobody's ever hunted, you know. Those pinch points when they're getting pressure and all those pinch points and all those other places and all those other little properties, and sometimes you got to give it a try. I don't typically do that, but I'm listening and watching and trying to learn from these guys all the time. And I see that stuff and I'm like, that's not a coincidence that's happening often. These big deer are going down to similar circumstances, you know, that they weren't walking down the rub line, you know. Yeah, I knew he'd come along eventually. That's not how it went down, you know.
I think a lot of people just fail to listen.
Yeah.
You know, I've had Dylan on co-hosting with the show for several episodes now. We're probably 3 or 4 months in and doing this together. Most of the time, I ask him at the end, dude, I'm sorry if I talked when you shouldn't have or anything like that, and he always says the same thing. Dude, I was just listening. I just listened. I'm soaking it all in. Like, that's a lot of people fail to do that, you know. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have you on, Grant. I knew you would have stuff that maybe nobody was thinking about or something like that, and getting information like that can be so big on just people just listening for 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
The little stuff like that to me is just, it's the fruit of the whole deal. If you can find that, man, that's the stuff that, man, I try to dissect those stories and those big events, and there's reasons why there's some similarities in those. You know, I had a deer a few years ago that I was getting on camera regularly, and I had some other nice deer on that particular farm, and I got into it was one of those mornings, opening morning of gun season, like you said, Brett. Opening morning, and the wind was blowing 100, and it was straight out of the west. And I mean, it just seemed like anywhere I went, it wasn't going to work. And at places I went, I didn't feel safe in the trees. It was just blowing hard. It was cold. We weren't going to be able to sit anywhere very long. It was just brutal, you know. I think I switched. I went to 3 different farms, and I wasn't anywhere more than an hour. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. This is not good. This is not going to happen. There's too much wind in the wrong direction. It's just not happening. So I just pull out. I started out in my worst spot because I was afraid to go to my best spots, you know, because it wasn't right. And then I finally went to this farm where I'd seen these deer and I didn't hunt the farm very much over the years. Matter of fact, I'd never killed a deer on that farm. But I decided to hunt that farm, and I decided I could access that farm with a west wind without being detected at all. So I didn't have a stand set up that was going to work. So I took a pair of, just little pruning clippers with me. And I took a 5-gallon bucket, and I took a shooting stick. And as soon as I went around this thicket, on the east side of the thicket, wind's blowing west, so the thicket's good. I know I've got deer to the north of me. I know I've got deer to the northeast of me and the northwest of me. So I get on the north side of this thicket. My wind's blowing directly out in the field. I cut a little hole back in this back in this old overgrown fence row edge of this thicket. And I cut it back in there, I don't know, 3-4 feet. So, but I can see through the tree branches and stuff. It's, so I cut it back. I'm sitting on my bucket. I've got my shooting stick up. I've got everything ready. And, I suppose I'd been there. I'd been there a couple hours, and I'd watched some bucks chase a doe around, and they were just having a blast chasing around right out in front of me. And there's no possible way they could win me. And then all of a sudden, I see just a tremendous rack coming through the trees to my north from the east. So my wind still is blowing. There's no way. There's only like a very, very, there's no way that deer can get in my wind. He can't do it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I see him, and he's working all the angles. I can't see 100% what he is. He's probably 125 yards away. He's in thick stuff, and I can just see, lots of tines and big tines, and he's in behind. And I made a mistake. I put a camera on the trail before I sat down where I sat down. I put a camera on the trail coming from that area. I thought, I got to get a camera here. I feel like this is a good travel corridor coming from that finger to this thicket. And so I set up the camera, and then I get in my spot, and then I see this deer coming across there. And like I said, I can't see him real good, but he's working all the cover, and he follows the thick stuff, and then he works into the trail where the camera is, and he gets up to that camera, and he goes like this.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I can just see he's a giant. I can't tell what he is, exactly which deer it is. I just know that he's a shooter. And so I got my stick up, and he's like I don't know, he's probably 75 yards away, maybe 100. I don't know. I can't. But anyway, I've got my gun up. I'm on a stick. It's opening day. It's afternoon. I've already blown out 3 or 4 spots because nothing was right. I'm sitting there, and here he comes, and he stops dead behind this tree, and he's smelling that camera, and I'm like, there's going to be a split second opportunity, if an opportunity. So I put my crosshairs just to the right of that tree that he was standing behind and to the left. Mm-hmm. And the second he bolted, I pulled the trigger, and I smoked him. And he ended up being like a 15 pointer and 76 inches, I think. Nice deer. But I mean, it was just one of those situations where I finally found the spot where I couldn't get caught, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's like 1 or 2% of the deer could, there's only just a very small area where I could have gotten busted. And he was not from that area. He was not in that. He wasn't going to get there. Right. So anyway, it was a pretty cool situation. And, just another one of those things. It's just, I mean, it's about finding the spot, you know. Right. I had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. I had to make a game plan. I had to change plans. None of my plans previously were set to do that. It was just kind of one of those, I got to come up with a plan here that could work, because nothing else felt like it could work, and this could work, and it happened to work. So, yeah, I'd
say it worked in 177-inch buck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of those unique situations where you kind of think outside the box. You got to come up with a game plan that can work, or you're just wasting your time and getting cold. You know, not more than wasting your time. If you're out there and your wind's blowing into the woods, you're not just wasting your time. You're wasting You might be wasting time for another week or two because
educating.
those deer will end up somewhere else. Yeah, you're educating them. So anyway, that was a circumstance.
Well, I got a question from Mr. Adam Bonowitz to you.
Yep.
Since you hunt other states, what is a law that another state has that you would like Indiana to implement? I can't even didn't come out right. For Indiana to imply.
Yeah. Well, it seems like every state has a little bit of a weakness. They've all got their own game plan. They don't really want to follow anybody else's game plan, and I get that. But it seems to me that the 1 buck rule is definitely a good rule. It's not really a law, but as far as and if I'm not answering your question, please tell me. But what I feel like Illinois does better than Indiana as a rule, as a way to create bigger bucks is you cannot go to Illinois and walk in and buy a firearm tag at your local Walmart in most cases. And if you do buy it, it's for one county. It's not for the whole state. Mm-hmm. And Indiana's pretty much, you can walk into any Walmart in Indiana and you can buy or any whatever, sporting
right.
store, whatever the case is, any vendor that sells hunting licenses, and you can be hunting every inch of Indiana that's private ground, and a lot of the public ground immediately. You're in, and so what that does is it creates a lot of opportunities for people to come in and not really plan their trip, not really have had the organization of putting together a hunt. They just show up and they're hunting. And Illinois doesn't do that. So what they do is they also that limits the number of people per county, per area, and that just doesn't happen in Indiana. So consequently, in Illinois, you've got more quality bucks in each county typically. Now, not always, and listen, Illinois is bigger than Indiana. Ohio is a lot bigger than Indiana. Comparing a state to another state isn't really fair. You really have to almost compare acres to acres and how it's. But the rules and laws of Illinois in that case is I feel like that particular situation where they protect each county. Unfortunately, they protect it well enough that I couldn't get a turkey license this spring over there, and I was wanting to go over there in the area that I wanted to go. I couldn't get one, so I thought that was kind of odd. But that's what they do, and they've been doing it for a long time, and so they're trying to get those numbers up and keep those numbers up, and they're doing the same thing with the deer herd. And I feel like sometimes they do have a situation over there where you can take 2 bucks. So and if you're a resident, you can take 2 archery bucks. If you're a non-resident, you can take 1 archery and 1 gun buck, I believe. You can't, and of course the tags also, they're talking about $350 to $475. It's expensive, and to go over there and hunt as far as the tag goes. I mean, but and I don't know what I've had a lifetime license in Indiana for most of my adult life, so I was fortunate to get that deal taken care of a long time ago, and that's nice. I don't even know do they still offer them in Indiana?
They don't offer them in Indiana. I wish they would bring it back because I spend a crap load on my licensing every year. So how much did you buy the lifetime license for? Do you remember?
I can't remember exactly. I want to say somewhere in like the $350 range or something like that.
Man, he got lucky.
Yeah. And I've got the original one and the original plastic. What do you call that?
Yeah.
Just the plastic over the top of it. But
So I won't harp on this too much because I don't want to piss anybody off because I know a lot of local people listen to this show, but
yeah,
I believe because I always buy the bundle, which is a buck and 2 does. It's good for all season. I can archery hunt, I can muzzleloader hunt, I can gun hunt, whatever. My tag and everybody else that's going to buy this bundle this year is just shy of $100. That's just my deer stuff. That's 3 deer.
yeah.
$100. I personally think that's ridiculous. I don't.
For a resident. That seems like
absolutely. I paid $300 in Tennessee, and I killed 1 bird. I could have killed 2 birds and what Dylan, two bucks or 3 bucks or whatever.
multiple doe. Like
Yeah,
you can hit certain counties. It's 3 a day.
Yeah.
Man,
not that I want to go kill that many, but
I'm not a big numbers guy on deer hunting. I'm kind of, I guess you can call me. I guess I'm a trophy hunter. You know, I do. Hey, listen, I got a freezer full of deer meat over there too, and we love it. My kids were raised on deer meat. They didn't even know what a filet was, a filet mignon was, or a ribeye was until they were old enough to go out on a date with somebody. You know, then they might have gotten that opportunity. But we just didn't eat that. We ate deer meat, and I think people probably think I'm crazy when I say that. But my wife and I, we ate a lot of deer meat, and we enjoyed it. And my wife will say today, "You need to get a deer." You know, even now, and it's just her and I at home. She'll say, "You need to get a deer. We're about out of deer meat." You know, and I'm like, it makes me feel good, and I love it, and she loves it. And,
that's good. I think Indiana should. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think Indiana should adopt this. They keep that non-resident number the way they do because they want the money. They want the $250 from a non-resident to either gun hunt or bow hunt. If you buy the bundled non-resident, it's almost $600.
Yeah.
And turn it into an Iowa situation. Take preference points. You're still going to get them to pay each year. I pay $60 to Iowa DNR every year because I want the point for when I go and do it. You know, take that preference point from them. Break the state up into zones, north, south, central, or something like that. Make them buy points, and then when they draw it, charge them $250 like you already did. I still think you come out ahead. I just think they get greedy when it comes to overall numbers. Because if you go down to Hoosier National in opening weekend of gun or maybe late bow season or whatever, you're going to see more non-resident than you're going to see resident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I don't know. That's just me harping on it. I think I've talked on here before. I don't mean to bash Indiana on that. I just think they should gather it up tighter a little bit because we do have very nice bucks that have been taken here, not necessarily on public. Been some nice public bucks as well, but I think they should really zone in and try to create an atmosphere like some of these other states do. I mean, with our gun season's right in the dead of rut. I mean, you're getting a lot of those big bucks that are getting their legs cut out from underneath them because they just want to chase the women around.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll get a lot of them on it. It's I guess to Brett, to your, if we're gonna dissect it a little bit more, which I think that's something that we all do and we need to do. We need to think about it and talk about it and hopefully make some positive change for the future here. I feel like that. I feel like we got way too many hunting dates for firearms. There's a lot of people that don't want to hear that. And I'm not here to argue with them. My opinion is we got 2 weeks and 3 weekends with firearms season, and then we've got 5 days off, and we get the same exact thing for a muzzleloader season.
Yep.
So, Dylan, you do the math, and I don't know what Tennessee is, but that's a lot of gun hunting.
Yeah, ours is a lot too.
Yeah, and I can almost see it in Tennessee because you've got a lot of forest.
Mm-hmm.
Probably got a lot a lot of population of deer.
We've got them thick, and our muzzleloader opens the weekend before Indiana's,
Yeah.
and once it opens, pretty much first weekend of November, muzzleloader it's open until January 12th or whatever weekend that falls on
Right.
for gun. So you just get 1 week of muzzleloader, then it switches to gun, and then that's when the weekend warriors get out there just shooting everything. And
Sure.
I've argued it with a lot of them, like, you're not going to shoot a big buck if you're going out here and you're shooting the first spike you see or the first 6 point and then blame it that you're hunting public land. Like, there's big bucks on public land.
Mm-hmm.
They're just getting out there and getting the first thing and getting out. And it's just like that's where the discipline comes back in. It's like,
Yeah.
put in the time and find them. But don't complain when you're shooting what you're shooting and trying to justify it by saying it's public or something like that,
Yeah. How would you know if there's a big buck in there if you shoot the first little one that shows up? So
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously cameras, but yeah, I get you 100%. Yeah, but the number of days that we can hunt with firearms is, I mean, and I'm a guy that I've been a firearm hunter most of my life because, like I told you, I catch myself passing them with a bow for years and years, just because. And it wasn't because I didn't want to shoot the bow. It's just because I wanted to have every opportunity to wait for the monster, and you can't do that. You can do that in bow season. You cannot do that in gun season, or at least that's been my mentality for a long time. Was you got to be ready for gun season. You got to make it happen fast, and that doesn't necessarily fly in situations where maybe, for instance, you've got a good late season spot with a nice food plot that'll be. Well, I've never been a big food plot guy. I heard you talking about your food plots there, Dylan. I did my first food plot last year, and it was a soybean plot, and I had a tremendous amount of late season action on it. Of course, I didn't have a tag, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. Then I the first one was that was soybeans, and the second one I did was I got it out a little bit late, and it had wheat, oats. I think it had turnips. It had clover and alfalfa. It had a lot of good stuff in it, and they seemed to like it. As late as it was, they still seem to like it during the season. But that soybean plot late, when all the other soybeans were gone and they were looking for some protein, they pounded it.
Oh, absolutely.
They pounded it right through December, right through January, and I mean, I'm it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. I feel like, if your game's late season, if you've got the patience to and a place to hold some deer, that would be the thing to have. You'll do well with late season soybeans, and even in the farming community where there's a few soybeans everywhere. Even typically, though, the soybeans do get harvested around here. There'll be a few fields of corn left sometimes, but most always the soybeans get harvested. But if you've got a decent sized little plot, late season, it could be. I could see where it could really make a difference.
And I've been big on stagger planting my food plot. So like 3/4 of an acre, I've got one planted as of, I don't know, a month ago, and then I've got another that's touching it, another half acre that I'm not going to plant until probably the start of August. I stagger it like that. That way they have it throughout the summer, going into fall. And then they have it for the later, like, January, when they're trying to pack on the protein.
Sure.
And I've really researched a ton, and the radish, especially the purple top, an acre of radish will put off like 6 to 10 ton of actual food for them throughout the year, just off of an acre plot. So by staggering it like that, and I'm staggering peas, purple top radish, corn. We mix some wheat, I'm trying switchgrass this year for, just a big field of that to see how they commute through it. But I've really taken it and just tried to experiment because I was thinking, like you said, I'm always, my mind is constantly turning. I don't
Yeah.
want one food plot because they're going to eat it all up before they need it. So I
Yeah.
started staggering it, and it's been really beneficial for me. So I'm excited to get up to Indiana. Brett's going to invite me up, and I've probably bothered him about it because
No.
I know how we hunt here, but I'm so intrigued by up there. And like
Yeah.
every night, I'm watching Indiana, um, states that surround you guys, and I'm reading and I'm looking up and I'm trying to grasp and get outside of my own element. And I think it'll actually elevate me once I get up there and can see how that all pans out.
I think you're spot on. I think that getting that experience in a different area, just I think your thinking and your deer hunting logic will work just fine right here. You're going to find a lot of the same things that we've talked about and that you've utilized. So it'd be fun to get you up here. I
Oh,
look
yeah.
forward to meeting you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll have to come over, Grant. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe the night before opening day, we can do like a grill out or dinner or something and get
Let's
shut the
just
grill.
let's just do it. Let's just make it happen. Let's have that. Let's
Yeah,
do that. I think
absolutely,
100%.
that needs to be like an annual thing. I mean, that's like you
for
said, it's
sure.
like a holiday.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's in Ohio they let school out.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
Michigan does too.
yeah. There's a few states that do that. It's kind of adds a little extra cool factor to it.
Absolutely. So with that
So,
being
anyway,
said, what's your plans? What's your goals and your plans for 2024?
uh, you know, I've got I've got I got plans here in Indiana, of course, and I will work that a little. I may do a little early season here. There's a better chance that I'll do a little more early season in Ohio. I've made some connections over there with a guy that's pretty passionate about hunting and big deer, and he's also passionate about turkey hunting. And he said, I'll kind of teach you the ropes with the turkey hunting if you'll help me out with the deer hunting. And he's got a couple of sons that are interested in hunting, and he's got some nice properties over there. We've been putting together a management plan, and we've made some significant changes in the last uh, 10 months over there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes. We trade pictures every morning about 6:30 every morning. It's kind of like it's like a little kid, getting out of bed. Where, what do I have? What
Oh
do
yeah.
I have to send to my buddies? So we do that, and I'm looking forward to that big time. Also looking forward to going back to that Illinois farm where I harvested this deer, and I got a lot of promising things going on there too. So very excited about that. Those three states right now are where I'm hanging for the time being. I was wanting to get back out to Kansas, and I didn't get drawn this year. So I would like to I'd like to get back in the game out there and do that again. That was a lot of fun. And I think too in Kansas, if you draw the muzzleloader tag and you aren't successful in muzzleloader season, which is early,
Mm-hmm.
then you can also hunt, I believe, in firearm season with that same tag. Uh, I need to research that to verify it, but I believe that's the case, and I think it'd be fun to go do again. I would love to actually
Absolutely.
hunt the same exact property that I took.
Going down the walking path.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do that again. And I'd love to. You know what else I'd love to do? I'd love to go to Texas. I've not done that yet. I'd really like to. I'd love to hunt Texas.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, and it's a later season. I think they run a little later in Texas.
Yeah.
I got a buddy that's hunted Texas some, and he's also hunted Mexico. He absolutely loves hunting Mexico for whitetails. So he's got a nice place over in Ohio. Maybe we could get together and do something in the south there, southwest. But that's about it. I did do a little bit of turkey hunting this spring. First time I've really gotten into it in years. I hunted turkey. First time I went turkey hunting, I killed a double-bearded tom in southern Indiana. And the guys I was hunting with said, "Oh my gosh, that's a turkey of a lifetime." And you know how it is when you kill the turkey of the lifetime, your first, So I didn't get that excited about it. Plus I was going with a guy that was an expert turkey hunter, and he did most of the work, and I just pulled the trigger basically. And was more lucky than anything. But that my buddy there from Ohio came over and hunted with me a little bit turkey hunting over here this year, and he kind of taught me a few of the very basic things that I don't think I really knew about turkey hunting. And I hunted one day by myself before he got here, and I had the bird in, but I made a couple crucial little mistakes, and he caught me moving, and it took me a minute to figure this out. He showed me some of the little tricks, and I actually called my first bird in, and it took me 3 or 4 times before I got him. But by the time I got him, I knew I was going to get him because I had made enough mistakes.
Didn't know where he messed up.
I realized it, and I think I fixed those. I feel really good about it now. I feel like after I succeeded, I knew I was going to succeed that morning. I had made enough mistakes that I was totally dialed in, kind of like that deer hunting thing back in '91. I knew that I was going to have some success that morning, if not very, very soon I was going to. And everything came together, and I called the bird right off the roost, and he pitched down not too awful far from me, and I made one little chirp, and he walked right into my lap,
That's awesome.
And I was just, I dropped down just below a little bit of a rise so he couldn't see me. I didn't have anything around me. I was just at a base of a tree, and there was a little hill in front of me, and I had an idea where he was going to pitch, and he pitched there. And when he did, I called him right over there. And as soon as he stuck his head up, and I got to say, it was exciting. It was fun. I'm looking forward to going turkey hunting again. And I can't really say that's been something that I really looked that much forward to, but I'm excited about it. And that's good. I'm 61 and excited to go turkey hunting again.
I love turkey hunting, and it's a different fuel than whitetails. I've talked about it on here a million times, especially with Dylan. It hits the soul a little bit different than deer hunting. You talk to them a little bit, you play the game with them. You don't have to necessarily. I mean, when it comes to turkey hunting, you need to sit still, but there's a lot of movement. You're chasing birds here. You're going down a mountain. You're going up a mountain. It's like. It's tons of that stuff,
Yes, it is, and I like that. I love that. Yeah, I used to hunt deer on my feet all the time. I was never in a stand, and I had so much fun doing it that way.
Right.
And I had a lot of success that way, but it's different now. I don't move as much when I deer hunt, but I'm not opposed to getting down. I'm not opposed to getting down and cutting one off. I can make a move on one if I have to. Sure. But turkey hunting's fun. I agree with you. You hear them, and let's get a little closer and see if we can't make it happen. Yeah, I like the vocal part of turkey hunting. I like
absolutely
hearing it.
That's so much fun.
It is. Now, if they're not talking, it's not that much fun.
It's a little rough.
But I think I learned that, and this is probably not always the case. You guys probably tell me more than I already know, but. To me, it seemed like the more I talked, the less they talked. So I tried to be pretty quiet. And finally, I figured out just a little bit, and they really liked it. So
leave them wanting more.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that was fun. I'm excited about that, and I can feel your excitement too. So maybe one of these days we can get together and knock some turkey.
You say when, bud. I'll be there. I'll call for you and film you at the same time.
Yeah. That would be fun. I'm looking forward to the. Do you guys fall turkey hunt any or?
Not really.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's more of a deer hunting them,
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to want to go out there and turkey hunt in the spring. It's a spring thing for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
well, I'm gonna end it on one last question. I'm gonna ask you what's your dream hunt? If you had to put together, you had unlimited amounts of money, or anywhere in the world you could go and chase any species. What's your dream hunt?
We took a cruise to Alaska here last month, and I really enjoyed that, and I've always wanted to hunt Alaska for. I want to hunt the Yukon moose, the giant moose. I think to me, I've never been that crazy about bear hunting, and the caribou. The caribou don't really turn me on. Those moose though they're just something. They're just huge. Incredible. I've hunted elk and killed a cow. I killed a pretty nice elk in Colorado up between Loveland and Estes Park up in it's an old homestead area up in there. It was a fun hunt, and did some pre-scouting out there and pretty much figured out where I wanted to hunt. About 2 hours into opening morning, it all came together. So it kind of felt like it was deer hunting to me, Yeah. But anyway, I'd love to do that. And there's one other thing I'd really love to do, and that would be I would really love to go to Africa and do a safari over there. And I'll probably do it in the next 10 years. I don't really have to harvest that much. I would like to harvest something, but more than anything, I'd just like to be there and just see the nature and the wildlife and see these majestic creatures over there, and pretty cool stuff. What about you guys?
I don't know, man. The Yukon moose is definitely on that list, but I don't know why it trips my trigger a little bit. I want to shoot a bear so bad with my bow, like really bad.
Yeah. I can feel you there. What kind of bear would you like to hunt?
It really wouldn't matter. I don't really see one being a trophy over the other one. I've had an opportunity to go black bear hunting this year. I chose to do the velvet hunt with Dylan instead. Whitetails over bears for sure, especially velvet because I really want that velvet buck on the wall. But I would probably say black bear.
Yeah. I can see where would you like to do that?
Anywhere is fine. When I bow hunted Wisconsin back in 2020 was the first time I ever saw a bear while I was hunting because we ain't got bears around here or anywhere I've really hunted. I wasn't even hunting the bear. I was deer hunting, and it gave me an adrenaline dump that I haven't had probably since I shot my first turkey. Like it had me fired. I had to grab a hold of the tree. Like this thing's, and it was at 100 yards. I can't imagine what it'd be like for it to be in a bait site or just coming through or something like that. I'd be fired up.
That's awesome. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. You got some bears down there, Dylan?
We do. I'm not far from Gatlinburg, like the Great Smoky Mountains. I'm about 45 minutes. So they're slowly trickling out. I never see any on my property, but they're within 30 miles, I'd imagine. So I'm just hoping they steer clear of me. And I've been bear hunting before. I went with some guys who ran dogs, and seeing how that all worked and all the miles we put in, I was like, you guys can have this.
Right.
It wasn't for me chasing them with the dogs because it was so much walking. But for me, I think, Kansas for whitetail or maybe Canada for waterfowl, I think would fire me up pretty good.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. What county do you live in down there in Tennessee?
I'm in Union, right outside of Knox.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm 30 minutes from the University of Tennessee.
Oh, okay. My in-laws lived in Cobb County over there.
Okay.
Morristown, over near Morristown for several years, maybe 25 years.
Yeah, that's not far at all from me.
Yeah, that's a neat area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoy it down there. So the Smoky Mountains are awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's nice having it in the backyard, that's for sure.
Sure. I wish we had bears around here, Brett.
I do too. I'd love to chase them. I mean, I wouldn't
I
want
gotta
them
say,
chasing me,
I
but
would definitely get into that.
oh, for sure. Well, Grant, I super appreciative of you jumping on the podcast. This has probably been one of the most in-depth podcasts we've had in a while, and just BSing with you back and forth on a lot of different stuff. I had an absolute blast tonight, buddy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I did too. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on. I love talking about deer hunting. I love deer hunting. I'm passionate about it, and I suppose I will be till I'm 6 feet under. It's just
Same.
it's just who I am. I take a lot of pride in it and get a lot out of it too. So really nice talking to both of you guys.
Absolutely.
Likewise.
And we'll be back here again next week with episode 87. We don't have one lined up just quite yet. We've had a couple kind of in our back pocket we might pull out. But for anybody in podcast land, hit us with a rate and review. Share it with your friends. YouTube, do the same. Like, subscribe. Send it to your buddies if you enjoyed it. But we'll be back here again next week.
Sounds good. Good luck, guys.